Everyone. So welcome to today's live session. Um, we'll begin with the session now. So if you have any questions or any concerns, you can ask them now. They don't have to be necessarily from the week's assignment or practice questions. It could be any doubt that you've had until now regarding, say, something that popped up in the quiz or something that you encountered in your exams or assignments, or in general, the content that you're watching now. If there's anything that is unclear or you think requires more understanding, please let us know. If there are also specific questions from, say, a certain module or a certain section of the lecture, please bring it up, right? So we're opening the floor up to the questions. If you have any, please unmute yourself and ask the questions. If it is extremely impossible for you to speak up, then please leave the question in the chat. It would be nice if you can leave the question as such so that it's easier for us to take a look at it, um, and get a glimpse of the whole question, right? Yeah, so we can start now. So if you have any questions, please raise them. You can raise your hands if you have any, and we'll call you. Okay? If there's no one, you can just unmute and ask your question. Anything? Any questions? No, no doubts, no concerns at all. I hope you're all watching the lectures then. I remember someone having written uh, to one of us during the quiz last time that they haven't watched any lecture. Is it okay to just do some? I don't know. I don't exactly remember the name, but I remember this part that the person wrote that I haven't watched the lectures. So I hope that's not the case with you guys. If you're not doing that, please do that. You need to watch the lectures, otherwise, some of the questions could be difficult. Some of them I understand you can do guesswork, but not all of them.
Ma'am,
How
we
many
got
of
a
you in
mail regarding
uh,
communication skills, a session on communication skills.
workshop? Is it?
Are you from English one?
Varun, you're from English one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, it starts tomorrow. The calendar will be updated by today evening.
Okay, ma'am. Is there something we should do before the class, or is it just we should just come to the class?
You can just directly attend the session.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Thank
Usually there are no prerequisites for the workshops we do. If there's any, then definitely along with the announcement emails, the materials are sent, but I don't think there's anything that requires a prerequisite. It's mostly like an open and free attendance sessions, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank
And for everyone who's here, I mean, very few of you do attend the live sessions also. Whenever you're given such opportunities, please make use of it. At least pay a visit and see what goes on. Maybe everything that happens is not, it's of course useful, but maybe everybody doesn't need it. But make it a point that when there's an announcement like that, you at least, go peep in and see what happens, right? And also, if you are someone who's attending the sessions, this is like a sincere request. When you go to workshops, usually the workshops don't last for more than 3 days, if I'm not wrong, right? Maximum would be some 3 days. Make sure that you attend all the sessions to benefit from it entirely. Because what we usually observe is there is like a good crowd on the first day, and then for the second and the third day it starts thinning, and by the time you reach the end of it, there's like mostly nobody, right? So although it is not like a certificate mediated activity, the sessions are quite serious and interesting. So if you're planning for it, maybe 1 or 2 hours or one and a half hours is not like too much of an investment from your day's time, right? If it is not, if until and unless you are like an extremely busy individual, otherwise, make it a point that you come to these sessions and see what happens at least, right? And those of you are making it to the session, please ensure that you come for all the 3 days or 2 days, whatever it is charted as. Right? Yeah, so that's that. So you'll see a lot of other sessions charted up for both English 1 and 2, and you'll get the announcements regarding all of them in the due course of time. So all of you are here, you make it a point that you come and see, and also, encourage others as well. If you are in touch with others, ask them to come join the sessions and see what happens at least, right? Okay, so that's that on the workshops. But any other questions as far as the lectures and modules are concerned? Anything that is of worry to you, or something that you think is beyond me? I haven't understood what it means. Which week are you, by the way, right now? In which week are you? What contents have you released, Aishwarya, for this week? I think last Friday, right? Which week of contents have you released? Is it uh, Hetal? Hetal, you have a question? Okay. Yeah, so which week of contents have they released for, English? I think for both English 1 and 2, it should be the same. Which week are we in?
8, ma'am.
8. Oh, right. So you've already reached 8. That means you probably are working on the stress rules for English 1. English 2, I do not know what exactly the contents were. So please pay attention to those lectures. Have you finished watching them, or are you in the process? Is it in progress?
Haven't started 8 yet.
Haven't started, yeah. So this is an interesting content as far as the modules are concerned, right? So you will have some work to do with the module content for week 8, English 1. English 2, I'm really sorry, I don't exactly remember what it was, but check that you get a good understanding of the stress rules, the syllabification, all of that, right? Because these are one among the very important topics that you would be introduced to, which otherwise you do not get any other in other traditional English classrooms. So make sure that you take a closer look at all those lectures. They're a bit rule driven, so also uh, find a way to learn them without you having to mug up the rules. Okay, so start practicing those application of the rules right away, because these are questions which can create a bit of a trouble if you're not paying attention. Any questions in the chat? Any grammar book recommendations? Or grammar book? See, usually no, Tejasvi. We do not recommend any books because any book is as good as the other, right? So it's not like one is better than the other, or there is the perfect book to learn grammar. You can pick anything that comes to you. And how do you do that? You can take a look at the content of the books and see if there is a good percentage of alignment with the modules, sorry, with the topics that is dealt with in our lectures. Then you can pick that book, right? So I do not, neither me or the team as such do not have like a list of recommendations for you. Uh, and it's not like a good idea to read from multiple books also, right? Although some people do that. Uh, What we have compiled together is basically, a list of topics which are largely figured in grammar, prose, and composition books, which are considered good enough for people at undergraduate, postgraduate levels, right? So you probably will not find the compilation of all of what we do in our course in one single book. So, which is why we do not provide you names of grammar books to look at. However, there are going to be topics from the 12 modules that we are dealing with, which you can find in different grammar books. So you just pick one which has maybe the most number of topics that are discussed for our 12 modules, right? Maybe not all 12 are found, maybe say contents worth 8 or 10 modules, or say not even that much, 6 or 7 modules are found. If you find a book like that, then you can use that. And even when you're picking up that book, my sincere advice would be please pick up a book which has some exercises to practice with, right? If they have questions on exercises to practice with, please pick up them. Do not take one which is just a descriptive book without any questions for you to work out, right? Because the problem is descriptions can be different. So there could be anomalies or some kind of differences between how a certain topic is presented in the lecture, right? So looking at a book that is entirely different from that will confuse you. So the advice is pick a book which covers most of the topics that we are dealing with in our lectures. But don't use the description section, or don't use it to understand and learn anything. You just use the exercise section so that you can practice some questions. Okay. So I think that is what my advice to you would be as far as the uh, book recommendations would be concerned. But besides all this, if you are following the lectures thoroughly, that should be more than enough for you to learn what we have considered as the course outcomes, and also, of course, more importantly, the exams that you have to attend. Okay? That should be more than enough. I hope I've answered that question. Okay, thank you. Vijayashree. Okay, anybody else? Any other questions? Do you only have organizational problems and structural issues like this, or do you have any content related questions, something that stands off the track as far as understanding of the topic is concerned? Anything that you haven't understood, or a question that has, you know, um, that has caused you some trouble, something that you thought was off the mark? Nothing of that sort. So if you're yet to watch the week 8 content, then I would recommend that you start watching them, right? For English one, at least, quite a lot of work required for this week's content. You have stress, you have stress tools related to aspirations, you also have certification. So some work to do as compared to the other modules you have. So then I think we'll expect more questions in the next week if you manage to finish watching those lectures by the end of this week. Anything else besides that? English 2? Anyone from English 2 here? Nobody? No one's from English 2. Oh, that's strange. Okay. Yeah, and what is the other thing? What is vocabulary and exception? I did not understand that part, Vedashri. Uh, my calendar doesn't show English 2. Nice. English 2 live session. Mail regarding it. Aris, you can, I think you need to subscribe to it. I do not know why your calendar doesn't show it. You probably need to subscribe to the course. But I think this is automatically populated. If you cannot see it, I think you should contact the support. Okay. To which batch are you from? Are you from English 1 or 2? You're from English 2. Are you using your official ID? Because sometimes if you don't use your official ID, also things don't go. You are using. Then if that's the case, you will have to write to the support to find out, is this the case with only English, or do you face the same problem with every other course? You see English 1 calendar. Oh, I do not know what that problem is. Only this course. Then you will have to write to the support. I do not know. Aishwarya, is there anything that you want to suggest?
Probably English to calendar doesn't share
Uh,
the link. Have you
oh,
subscribed for the English to calendar? Can someone please?
Hari is, sure, this question is for you. Have you subscribed to the, you can't, he doesn't, she can't seem to find the link in Sales. He cannot find the
Okay,
link.
the okay, I'll check with the backend team on this.
If we have a link, I think it would be nice if we can post, maybe let him see and access if there's a problem at his end, or is it because, something else is going on. Okay. YouTube playlist link also, yeah, I think we
Are
should
you
share it
from
for you.
Bangaru Akhil? You're from English 1 or 2? Which playlist link do you want?
He's from English 1.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah, exceptional cases in grammar. Exceptional cases in grammar and vocabulary practices. Still not sure what exceptional cases mean, but if you're looking for vocabulary, please don't take any shortcuts. Start reading right now, today. Okay. The only way you can uh, take on the uphill task of building your vocabulary is by reading. Okay. If you're someone who doesn't spend time reading, then certainly this is an uphill task, and an uphill task that you're not going to ever achieve. Okay. Please do not thrive on shortcut methods to learn vocabulary, because it simply doesn't happen, right? Language is one such skill which you cannot develop without proper exposure. I'm sure you probably have heard about the exposure theory, right? Like this applies to language also. A lot of things you cannot overcome or you cannot achieve unless you expose yourself properly to what is required, the target what is, right? And in our case, the language. So immerse yourself, right? Uh, and for people who do not live in countries where English is not a dominant language like ours, the only way we can do that is by, immersing ourselves into things like reading and listening and watching contents, right? So we have to do that, and systematically. It cannot be like, 2 days you do it and then the third day you are like, okay, fine, I don't want to do it today. So unless you have a systematic approach to building this, you're not going to see any results. So be consistent, be systematic, stay put on that, otherwise you won't see results. Right? Do a little bit of rigorous reading. You can test yourself also. Right? You don't have to depend on any online test frameworks or even us. You can design your own test and see how well are you doing with vocabulary. Give yourself small assignments, like you read something and say write a summary about it. If you and you do something, you maybe gift yourself something. Say if you have used 5 different expressions in the summary that you wrote, then you put 5 rupee coin in your thing, your piggy bank. And if not only two, then only put two. Like that way, I think it will give you some kind of excitement, and then buy something good for yourself with the money that you put, right? If you have a mentor, if you have parents, if you're in school, you can ask somebody else to do that for you. 5 rupee, 2 rupee would not be a great deal, right? Of course, you can't get expensive gifts for yourself, but something, something small, something that is rewarding. So if the rewarding technique works, you can do something like this. Read something, write a short summary of that, That way, you're also exposing yourself to new words and vocabulary, and you're also trying to develop a very important other skill, which is writing. So do something like this. See, we need to do something about it, right? Just thinking about the techniques or knowing techniques from others will not work. Very simple task. Just read, take it up. Design some framework for you to learn that. And if possible, if you think you will be motivated, maybe do something like I said, right? Give yourself small rewards and keep a tab of how much you're learning, right? So it's win-win for it won't be boring, and at the same time you can learn something also. If it were a contact classroom, maybe we could have mediated that, but then in online setup it is a little difficult to come up with things like that. Which is why I've just given you an idea. Maybe get a mentor for yourself, or maybe you form a group amongst yourself, right? You can do too many things on your own also. But please don't leave the reading habit. Read every day, consistently, systematically, every day. Make it a point that you read for at least an hour. Okay? Yes, yes. So first thing is when you're starting to read, no, please don't bother about the meanings of the word. When you're reading, just read. Okay, whatever meaning comes to you, whatever you understand from what you have read, that is all right. Okay, do not look for 100% comprehension in the first go. Okay, so if you are going to bother too much about the meaning of individual words, no, that is going to hamper your pace, and it will also be very boring after a point. So don't bother too much about that. Just read, just free read the text that you have, whatever it is, whether it is fiction or non-fiction or something that is more academic in nature, whatever it is. But for the beginning, I would say please don't read your academic books. Keep that away from the reading activity. Take up something that is interesting to you. Don't read your regular study books or your academic books. Keep them away from this activity. Take up something that is interesting. Do not worry too much about the meaning making process right in the beginning. Just read, right? Just freely read it. Continue this activity for a week or two, and then you get back to the activity that I suggested, right? Then, once you're ready to pick up a few words, then it's okay. From day one, if you start going to bothering yourself, with how many words did I learn, what is the meaning of this word, then it is going to be a very trite activity at the end of this, right? So don't bore yourself and don't tire yourself out. That's more important. Don't burn out in the process of trying to learn new things, right? Your task should be to comprehend or understand more than learning a new word. Learning a new word is secondary. Comprehension is more important. So just read, keep reading. Okay. Right. I think uh, I answered as much as I can in words. The rest of it is action which you need to take up. Then some other question. Okay. Yeah, that's all I guess. Yeah. So any other questions, anyone? How can we learn? Sorry, how we can learn best way from listening? Huh. Listening. How can you learn in the best way from listening? Can you elaborate a little bit, or what do you mean? What are the best uh, methods to listen something well? Is that what you meant? Or how to improve listening comprehension? What is the question? So first of all, I think uh, from the top of my head, one thing is that don't passively listen to anything. Okay, listening is a very serious activity. It is different from hearing in the sense that listening is more voluntary, right? Unlike hearing. So when you're listening, especially from the perspective of language learning, comprehension, of course, is an important part. You need to understand what people are saying. But because you're also trying to learn a new language, please pay attention to the prosodic features, right? What are prosodic features? Something that's related to the way you say something, pronunciation in colloquial terms, right? So see if it has stress, see if it has tones, right? In English, of course, we don't have tones. Stress patterns we do. There is intonation patterns. Like if you're listening to conversations, see how the speakers are alternating between rising and falling intonations, how they vary their pitch and rhythm, what is their pace of speaking, right? These things should also be paid attention to. Okay, and again, you need systematicity here. So make a note of the difference in which the conversations happen when it is a formal space, right? So it is a speech or it is a lecture. So if someone is delivering a lecture, you see how their voice modulations or their pitch changes to when somebody is having, normal conversation with each other, right? These things also, all these suprasegmental features or episodic features of languages are also important as far as listening comprehension is concerned, right? Which includes understanding the sounds, knowing the pitch variation, knowing the rhythm. All of that is important for listening comprehension, right? Put together, I'm sure you're able to do a good job as far as listening is concerned. How can you practice? Of course, like the other, like I mentioned about the vocabulary part, you do more systematic activity, like you listen more regularly, right? You be consistent in whatever practice you're doing. Alternate between the kind of content that you listen to. So if you're listening to formal content for say 2 3 days, take a break, then listen to something that is more informal and conversational in nature, right? So use some sandwich technique so that you don't get bored. Okay, that is very very important while learning. You need to make sure that you don't get tired of what you're doing. So I think this approach should be helpful to begin with. And as you continue with your learning, you will in the due course of time you'll realize what interests you better. Once you figure that out, I think you can move to that and then continue. Okay.
Yeah. So I like to watch series and movie, but when I watch something formal
Mm.
like news, I feel bored. So
Correct.
uh,
So
is it
that is also
fine?
important, right? So what you should do is, I understand for most of us, series is interesting to watch, right? But uh, give yourself a break from that. So if you're not like really interested in watching news, then maybe reduce the time of watching that. But then don't completely avoid it from your practice, right? That's not how it works. Say you watch
Yeah.
2 hours or 3 hours of series, maybe watch half an
Mhm.
hour of some lecture or some news. Okay, that's all, so that you can
Yeah.
tell yourself that okay, I've done my job, but then I have not done it to the level that I'm boring myself, right? Half an hour should not be a big deal for people. So once you start, see, you find it boring also because a lot of things that happen there probably is not comprehensible to you. You can't connect with it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
why does that
That's
happen?
true.
Uh,
Uh,
then that happens because you are not giving it the time that is required. Once you get acquainted with it, get a little bit familiarized with the domain and setup and the flavor of it, I won't say that you'll start enjoying it, but you'll find it little less troublesome to deal with. Okay.
Yeah, and when I especially watching news or something at that time, like
Mm.
they use a high level vocabulary that we don't use in regular life, so
Yes. Yes.
that is very
Yeah.
hard for me to get it, and that's why if I don't get it,
Mm.
then I feel like boring, like if I'm not able to
Mm.
understand it. So
Totally understandable. I think that's the case for most of the people. But if we are trying to improve on the formal vocabulary, which is also very important professionally, we'll have to make some, we'll have to cut some uh, fees there, right? You'll have to make some compromise there and maybe say, okay, fine, half an hour, I'll somehow listen to this. Okay. So familiarize yourself is the biggest thing that you need to do. And that half an hour thing will do the work for you. Okay. You'll have to force
yeah.
yourself in the beginning because it's not at all interesting. But start with half an hour, right? And
Mhm.
once you get your ears get used to listening to these things, no, I think the situation will be, it will become a little better.
Yeah, that makes sense. And should I watch movies and series with subtitle on, or should I repeat same movie again to grasp more word, or like how should I uh, watch it like to really
Uh,
get it?
General advice is usually people say please hide the subtitles, but
Oh,
I am a little unconventional when it comes to it. If you're watching something and if you really cannot make out what they are saying, then there's no point of switching off the subtitles. So have the subtitles on, okay? But control your urge to read that subtitles, right? Maybe in the first go or second go, the first two, three, four movies that you watch, right? You probably will read the subtitle. You have to read it to make sense of it. But again, while you are putting yourself to this process, what are you actually doing? You're actually training your ears to listen to the sounds of that language, right? You have
yeah.
to, at this point, you have to read the subtitles because the sounds are not as familiar to you now. So they don't make sense. You're not able to put them together to make the words to understand the meaning, although we know English, right? We know English, we have been learning English, but then the way that is spoken or used in the places where English is predominant is very different, right? Which is why when you watch that in spontaneous speech on in a movie or a series, it sounds like a alien language to us, although we have been listening to it for a long time. Okay, so dialect variation, speech variation does cause this. So the only way to tackle that is you start with the subtitle, no problem. Watch your three, four, five, six movies with that, and while
Okay.
you're doing that, what happens? These sounds will fall on your ears for sure, right? So your ears slowly will get trained to understand
Mhm.
these sounds. And it's a time consuming process, but it will definitely happen. You need to give it some time. All of us have gone through the same, problems. Like when I used to watch in the beginning times, when I used to start watching, this was back in the college days.
Mhm.
Okay, when I used to watch it first, same thing. I have been studying English for 14 years back then. Okay, but
Mhm.
when I used to watch the movies, it would make no sense to me. It used to sound like some alien language, although it was English. So, but I gave myself some time. I'm like, okay, fine. So, okay, if I'm not understanding right away, I'll watch it with the subtitles on, but I will watch it more. So, we used
Mhm.
to have movie marathon at the end of the weekend, right? We used to watch like five, six movies together in one go in college. And when we got used to watching it every now and then, slowly
Mhm.
we got into the habit of switching off the subtitles and still make sense of a little bit of what's going on. And over the years, say in 4 5 years, we're able to now I don't need it. I don't have to have the subtitles on, and everything makes perfectly good sense to me when I watch. Right? I don't need the subtitles at all. So this is again
Nice.
a time-consuming process, but you will have to invest your time in that. If you're not investing, then no, there's no end to this one. But if you do it properly, if you're going to do it consistently, you'll definitely see results. I mean, I am a living example for that. Now it
Yeah.
is absolutely not a problem for me, right? But I,
Mhm.
I know where I began with. I couldn't even understand one word. Even hello did not sound normal to me. I thought they saying something else. So this happens, but give yourself time, invest some time in that, and you will see the
Mhm.
results, right? More importantly,
Yeah.
be consistent. Don't leave it midway through. Don't do it
Mhm.
for like 5 days and I'm like, okay, I'm bored. I don't know to do this. Okay?
Yeah, makes sense, makes sense. And I have another question. Like, I'm learning English since 5 years, but I'm not feeling confident. Like, even
Mhm.
I'm living in Canada, like, speaking in English
Uh-huh.
with people, but especially like when I speak with Indian people, that's fine. But when I speak with foreign people, at that time, like, I just like I lose my confidence. Like, I'm not able to
Mhm.
speak with them properly. I don't know why it's happening
Uh-huh.
to me.
That's because
Yeah.
you're conscious when you're talking, right? Because you already are aware of your identity as an Indian English speaker. So that is causing psychological barriers for you while you're interacting because you're looking at them as, of course, they are foreigners to us, but then, you're being a little bit too conscious about it, right? So to take out that thing, don't bother too much. I mean, they're also human beings. It's all right. They'll understand. We are not expected to speak exactly like how they are, right? Because we are not
Mhm.
born with that language. It's okay. So these are certain realities about language speaking and learning. So you tell this to yourself and convince yourself that okay, this is not a problem, right? This is not a problem that I cannot speak English like them. You don't have to speak English like them. You can speak as you are speaking. You focus more on the part that okay, they can understand me. It should not be the case that they don't understand you. So you focus more on expressing your ideas or communicating your ideas through properly. Okay? Don't bother about whether you sound like them or not. That is absolutely not a point of concern. Shouldn't be a point of concern. And keep
Yeah.
interacting. You know, immerse yourself more. If you feel underconfident, then find a way to talk more so that you feel accepted more. Right? Sometimes
Yeah.
acceptance don't come because we don't talk. It's not because we speak bad language. It's also because bad language in the sense poor language, not bad language as such. Uh, it's not because of our lack of proficiency. Sometimes acceptance doesn't come because we don't speak. Okay, we don't bother to interact because of our fear of or because of our intimidation of language incompetence. Right? So these are not language problems per se. These are psychological barriers that people face or cultural barriers that we face. Just interact, talk more, immerse yourself more with the community, engage with people more. Okay, engage
Yeah.
with people who you think are kinder and are not judgmental, right? So you can do that.
Yeah.
Use these
Yeah. That
opportunities.
makes sense. Mhm.
Find small gigs for yourself. Maybe participate in community events and all that. Where you can get to interact with more people. And I think this
Mhm.
should work. That's how you gain confidence generally. There are no or at least I don't know if there are therapies. I am not a therapist, so I do not
Yeah.
know. But these
Yeah,
are these are
what
the all.
happens to me, like when I make more conversation with them, then I lose confidence, and then yeah, I don't speak with them. Like I'm not able to. Yeah, like
So that is
I
exactly what
make
you should
more
not be
mistakes.
doing.
Hmm.
That is exactly what you should stop doing, right? Losing confidence is okay, but this part that I stop talking. Even
Hmm.
if you lose confidence, even if you feel bad about it, what you cannot afford to do is stop talking. The moment you stop talking to them, that's all. Then there is no input, no output, right? You need an input to improve your language, and your output is what will tell you what you need to correct about the language. If you stop talking, then there is absolutely nothing to work on. So it's okay if you feel underconfident, if you feel nervous, you feel, you're afraid of expressing yourself. All that is part and parcel of being human. That's all right. But they just don't stop talking. Okay, as far as
Sense.
language learning is concerned or language speaking is concerned, if you stop talking to people, that's all. Then it's a sale deal for you. Okay, nothing else is going to work with it. Even even if you're scared, just continue. That's all, because that's the only way out. No, what's the point of just sitting scared about it? Continue talking. Even if you feel there is a slight bit of a judgment, that's all right. Just continue talking. This is why I said you meet 20 people, maybe 15 of them are not great human beings, right? They're probably judgmental. But you'll still manage to find that 5 people who will be encouraging and that kind of. So tap on them, get help from those kind of people. And more importantly, continue doing what you're doing. Just don't stop and run away. Okay?
Makes sense. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, no problem, Hetal. Thank you for asking that question. Uh, somebody else's hand's been up for a very long time. I'm sorry. Who's this?
Hey, so
Uh, hi.
my name is Rahul
Yeah.
Yagre. So,
Yeah. Hi, Rahul.
yeah. So I'm into the second paper now, and I was
Okay.
basically, so I have been into the industry for some time,
Okay.
and when I look at the English curriculum that we went through, I appreciate all the work that's gone in because it taught me a lot many things that I was really not aware of.
Mhm.
But one thing that I did find sort of overwhelming was when we look at
Yeah.
the technical side of it, right? So we are doing this as part of an engineering course, right?
Yeah.
And so to say, when we go through any prose like reading books or even during interpersonal communication, right? It's
Yeah.
all good. But the moment it boils down to the technical stuff. So let's say I'm reading a book on Python or a SQL Server or something, right?
Mm.
Especially if it goes a little higher into the engineering concepts, like you're doing quantum stuff and all that,
Mm. Mm.
then you are absolutely lost and you are googling out each and every sentence. I've done that actually. I have googled out all
Mm.
the sentences in the paragraph trying to figure out what is being
Mm.
said. and it takes a lot of effort to get to that. I I don't know. I mean, if I can do something about it, can add more.
So this is a very different domain of work which we call as the academic English. Okay. So unfortunately, the curriculum that we follow for our course is not that advanced. Or I think it would be better for me to say that we do not have the space to include that kind of advanced curriculum for this one, right? Because I mean, you also know that we have a cohort of students who are, who are now school students, who are people like you, like industry specialists or professionals, right? So what we have put together is basically a cumulative average of every, every section of students who come to us, right? So this is basically like an end product of what we think would be suitable for everyone who walks into this. Okay. So this is not something that serves a particular bracket of people exclusively, right? So this is why you see advanced content is there, but it is not there till the most advanced level. Basic is there, but then we do not touch the most basic also, right? So we find ourselves a little handicapped in that sense that we cannot integrate this with a specialized sort of curriculum to serve something like that. And it is basically because of this, mixed bag of students that we have here. But what we'll try to do is let's see if we can, maybe have something like a prolonged workshop or anything that we can work on. We already have like something called the professional writing, but then that is very different from academic English, right? So we'll see, we'll look at it. See, there's also the case that, sometimes this is 1 or 2% making the demand. And when you put out something, then you don't see it. So this is also a problem that we're facing. But anyway, thank you for that. We'll look into it. We'll see if we can put something in there. Yeah? Thank you for the suggestion.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure. No problem. Okay. Any other questions that you have, any serious concerns, any conceptual clarities? If not, then I think we can wind up for today. Give you some more time to look at, particularly for the English 1 students who are taking the GK contents now. Please look through the content and get back to us in case you have any doubts. What is this? Actually, for quiz 2, how many weeks? Quiz 2 is week 1 to 8. Audio type questions were removed because of some administrative reasons. It was difficult. A lot of people used to find it difficult to get audio clarity. Not all centers functioned in the same way. So this was an administrative decision that we are not be including audio questions anymore for these. Okay? And quiz 2 contents week 1 to 8. Okay, all right, everyone. So it was nice talking to some of you. Please keep visiting the sessions and also the live sessions on Wednesday. We'll see you again next week. Hopefully, we'll have some questions from your sites and answers. We'll meet you the next week. Okay? So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. See you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Actually, we can